All right, hey, welcome to another edition of Flea Market Fantasy, the world's second greatest Bronze Age era comic book podcast. Joining me as always is new Michael, Kevin J.
Hey, I'm here, and we're here to talk about another Aquaman Hostess Cakes ad.
Yeah, this one's not as good as the other one, though, I don't think.
Oh, it had quite the title, though. I like what they were doing with the title.
I forgot the title. I don't even know. It'll be a surprise to me when we get there, because I forget what the title was. But yeah, today we're going to be reading Shazam, issue 28 from 1977. And I learned a lot about Shazam today, Jank.
That's good.
Yeah.
More than any man should know.
Very excited. Now, the reason I picked this issue is because it features the return of Black Adam.
Yeah, who kind of had the skinny Lobo treatment here, where he's kind of a wimpy looking dude.
Just an average size fella.
Gets to be later on.
Yeah, but of course, in the wrestling world, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is getting back into WWE, and he's going to be he's causing all kinds of trouble for Cody Rhodes. You know,
yeah.
And he's teaming up with our tribal chief. This show acknowledges the tribal chief, Roman Reigns, and and of course, Rock was in a movie called Black Adam about Black Adam. So we're tying everything together. Before we get into all that stuff, let's remind everybody, if you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. We're up to 182 subscribers. So we picked up, I think, 4 since last week. So Archie did his job. Good job, Archie. I'll tell you, it seems like Archie's more popular than Spider-Man.
Yeah, I saw that. That was bizarre.
I don't know what. Anytime we do a Spider-Man issue, no one watches it. I don't know. It's just, we'll see.
It's just been overdone, I guess. Oh, wow.
I suppose. Mike Gale killed it with that Spider-Cast thing he did.
Yeah.
And also, you can get the Flea Market Fantasy T-shirts at merch.19books.com. They're flying off the shelves. They're flying off the shelves.
DOT fans been busy.
So, all right, let's get into Shazam. And first of all, did you watch that Black Adam movie with The Rock?
I think we mentioned this last week, but I attempted to twice.
Oh,
the first time I shut it off within, I think, 8 minutes. And I was just like, nope.
Now, why did you make that decision?
Our buddy Tuffy was going to watch it. Well, it was just terrible. Like, I was not having any of it.
But what made it terrible? Do you remember, like, what it was?
I mean, well, I think it starts off with it's basically his backstory in ancient Egypt, and they just really rushed through it, and, like, it was not satisfying at all. It's just like, I don't know, I could barely follow this because they're just skipping ahead so much. And then they got to modern day a little bit, and it's just like, I don't care about any of this. They started introducing these other heroes, like these super D-list heroes that look like they're from the CW shows, and it's like, what the fuck is this? This isn't even a movie.
All right. So then that was the first time. Then you went back a second time?
Yeah, Tuffy was going to watch. He's like, I'm going to watch like Black Adam by next week. So I'm like, all right, maybe I'll watch it too, so we can talk about it on the LCS show. And I think I made it another maybe 35 minutes, and I was just like, I can't.
Right.
I'm just out on all of this.
Yeah, I haven't watched it. I haven't watched any of the Shazam movies either. Have you watched those?
I watched the first Shazam. I did not see the second one.
How'd you feel about the first?
Okay, I guess. It's not terrible. I mean, for the DCEU, it was one of their better efforts, probably. And then it was not completely god-awful. At least told a coherent story in and of itself. And, some of the kids were all right. They were likable enough. They had the one kid from It who's really good, was playing like his best buddy. So that was fun.
All right. I'll take your word for it. I'm not going to watch any of them.
It is kind of weird that, Black Adam is basically, Captain Marvel's main villain there. But, The Rock refused to let them, be in the same movie together. He was just like, no, I'm going to fight Superman because that's more befitting me. It's like, what? You're basically an evil version of Captain Marvel. How can you not fight Captain Marvel?
Yeah, that is weird. That is a little strange. So who was Superman in the Black Adam movie? Did they have their real Superman guy?
I think it was only a cameo from what I hear, and I believe they did get, Henry Cavill did come back. But they were setting that up for, I guess, the second one, which will probably never happen.
Never be made, yeah. All right, so in 1939, the success of National Comics' Superman and Batman inspired Fawcett Publications to start its own comics division, and staff writer Bill Parker came up with 6 characters. Wow. Pay attention. This is very important. Ibis the Invincible, Spy Smasher, Golden Arrow, Lance O'Casey, Scoop Smith, and Dan Dare. Each hero possessed the special power granted by a mythical figure. All right? So that sounds pretty great, right?
Yeah.
But then Fawcett Comics' executive director, Ralph Degg, decided it would be best to just combine all 6 into one character. And he called it Captain Thunder.
Ah.
Unfortunately, it turns out that name was taken. Someone had already done a Captain Thunder. So artist Pete Costanza, no relation to George, suggested Captain Marvelous. And then that got shortened to Captain Marvel. So that's how we got to Captain Marvel.
Yep.
And Captain Marvel
along and tried to usurp it.
Yeah, Captain Marvel is Shazam. It's a long story. We'll get into it here. But Captain Marvel, the character, Billy Batson, he's a little kid, like 11 or something, right? 11, 12, something like that. Billy Batson.
Although apparently he's also working at a news studio.
Yes, I was confused by this as well. But I guess in the original book, he somehow talked his way into being a newscaster for a radio station. And he would go around.
Well, I mean, this was the era where, like, they were letting, 17-year-olds be the editor-in-chief of comic book companies, so, like, I guess that makes sense.
But Captain Marvel's first appearance was in Whiz Comics issue 2, 1940, and that was published by Fawcett Comics. And he was created by C.C. Beck and Bill Parker. And by speaking the magic word Shazam, he turned into Captain Marvel. And
just like Gomer Pyle. That's the same thing.
That's Gomer Pyle used to always say Shazam. And that's why he said it, because he was a fan of the comic book. So, let's quiz you, Jank. Do you know what the Shazam is an acronym? Do you know what it stands for and what it means?
I could look at the first page of this book and tell me, but I won't do that. I know it stands for the gods that give him his, different powers. I know the Z is Zeus.
All right. Well, Solomon is the S.
Yep.
And you get wisdom from Solomon. Hercules, you get his strength. Atlas, his stamina. Zeus, hey, you got one. The power. Achilles, courage. Mercury, speed. And that's how you get Shazam.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to go for Achilles. Like, your heel open to a lot of attacks that way.
So Whiz Comics issue 2 sold 500,000 copies.
Holy hell.
I know, it's pretty great. By 1941, Captain Marvel got his own solo series called Captain Marvel Adventures, and issue 1 was written and drawn by some guys named Joe Simon and Jack Kirby. How about that? I had no idea.
Whatever happened to them?
Yeah. Captain Marvel's physical appearance was based on Fred McMurray from Double Indemnity fame, one of my favorite movies of all time. In My Three Sons and Absent-Minded Professor, all that stuff, So how about that? Fred McMurray. Captain Marvel was the most popular hero in the Golden Age, and his book sold 14 million copies in 1944. At one point, it was published bi-weekly and had a circulation of 1.3 million copies per issue. That is crazy.
That's insane, yeah. Who would have thought? I had no idea he was ever that popular.
His popularity led to spin-offs. Freddie Freeman, a disabled newsboy and friend of Billy Batson's, became Captain Marvel Jr., and he wore like a blue outfit. Captain Marvel has a red outfit with a gold lightning bolt. That's his gimmick. And Billy's twin sister Mary became Mary Marvel. Although when they turned in their heroes, Mary Marvel and Captain Marvel Jr., they stayed as kids, where Billy Batson turns into a grown adult.
Yeah, that's kind of weird.
Yeah, it is strange. And they also have Uncle Dudley. He became Uncle Marvel, but I don't think he ever had any powers. I think he was just like comedic relief kind of a thing. But, although there was Hoppy the Marvel Bunny though. It was a bunny with Captain Marvel powers.
Wow,
that's pretty good. And
all the weird bunnies in comic book history. Like there's that weird green bunny guy in like the Star Wars comics.
Yeah.
They just love putting bunnies in things.
In 1941, National, and then they became DC Comics, of course, they sued Fawcett for copyright infringement, saying Captain Marvel ripped off Superman. So the litigation lasted 7 years before it finally went to trial in 1948. 3 years later, the judge ruled that Captain Marvel was an infringement, but found that DC had been negligent in copyrighting several of its Superman daily newspaper strips, deciding that DC had abandoned the Superman copyright.
Whoa.
Yeah. So National appealed, and in 1952, a new judge ruled that Superman's copyright was valid. Think how different history could be if that ruling went a different way. However, this judge did not find that Captain Marvel was an infringement and sent the case back to a lower court for a retrial. Now, at this point, Fawcett, they decided to avoid another trial and settled with National because during the time of this trial, Captain Marvel's popularity had been dwindling along with all the other superheroes.
What are we fighting for anymore?
Yeah, this is 1951, so superheroes were out, horror comics were in, and like sci-fi stuff.
Romance and westerns and all that stuff.
Superheroes won't want to come back until early 60s when Marvel, brought them back. So they're like, why are we even fighting this anymore? Captain Marvel's pretty much dead, so all right, we'll just settle with you. So on August 14th, 1953, Fawcett ceased publication of Captain Marvel, and they paid National $400,000 in damages, and then Fawcett shut down its comic division and fired the entire staff. So they said, we're out of here. Now,
can you imagine a world where where other comic companies could sue each other for their characters being similar? Like that's all they do in Marvel and DC now is there's an equivalent of this character at this company. Like,
yeah, every week on
never ending tied up the courts with just comic book lawsuits.
We encounter that every week. This is just DC's version of this, and this is Marvel's version of that. So part of the settlement included Fawcett agreeing to never publish Captain Marvel again. But in 1972, with superheroes now all the rage, Jack Kirby, who was with DC at this point, he urged DC editor-in-chief Carmine Infantino to bring back Captain Marvel. So Infantino licensed the characters from Fawcett. Because Fawcett couldn't publish it anymore, but they could license them to DC to publish.
Sure.
All right.
Might as well.
But before this happened, in 1967, Marvel had created their own Captain Marvel. And we're aware of that fella, Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Marvel.
Yeah. So, now there was also, they actually had to license the name Captain Marvel, not from Fawcett. They had to pay to some other minor publisher. I forgot to write his name down, but they had created a Captain Marvel robot. And so that guy said, Marvel, you can't use the name Captain Marvel because I named him for my robot. And basically the robot was just a ripoff of the Captain Marvel that Fawcett had created.
Oh, wow.
But this guy got Marvel to pay him $4,500 so they could get the name Captain Marvel. So that's how they got, I don't know, just weird.
This is the endless daisy chain of weird.
Yes. But 1967, Marvel did their Captain Marvel. So now Infantino, he couldn't call the DC book Captain Marvel. So they called it Shazam.
Yeah, there you go.
That's how we get Shazam. Because growing up when I was a kid, I only knew him as Shazam. I didn't know him as, never really heard him. Because there was also a TV show in the 70s.
Yeah, that's right. Him and Isis, the unfortunately named Isis.
And there is also a cartoon of Shazam, I think in 81, around there.
Oh.
But the original subtitle for the book
it's a good name until you realize he has to introduce himself as like, hey, I'm Shazam. Oh, crap. Yeah. And then just like loses his power.
Yeah, because that's how he gets his powers. He says Shazam. And then when he says Shazam again, like he gets struck with a bolt of lightning and he loses his powers.
Yep.
So, that is a problem. Just has to walk around with a name tag, I guess. But, so the original subtitle for the book we're reading today was the original Captain Marvel. But Marvel sent a cease and desist immediately, and then they changed it to Shazam, the world's mightiest mortal. So that's the book we're reading here today.
Yeah.
And the Shazam series started in 1973, and it lasted 35 issues.
This is a DC TV comic, so I guess this is more based off of the TV show than the comic book universe.
I don't know, because I don't even know if I guess the show was still around at this point. I think it started in 74, so I think it did run until 77, so maybe. But, yeah, I don't know. It seems like this is in line with what they were doing in the comics, though, so.
Yeah. Okay.
Like I guess Captain Marvel, they, if I read this properly, it was set in a DC universe like S or something. You know how they all have different universes and everything.
Oh yeah.
So, like Batman and Superman, I don't think were in this world. So, whatever.
Okay. Yeah, it wouldn't be till later on. They're just like, screw it. We're going to combine all these things.
Yeah.
Get all our licenses in one universe.
So in 1987, Captain Marvel, after this series ended, Captain Marvel appeared as a member of the Justice League and got his own miniseries, Shazam, The New Beginning. And one of the big changes they did at this point in time was that when Billy Batson became Captain Marvel, he retained Billy Batson's personality and everything. Like, so he's just a kid. That's how the movie was, right? Like a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, essentially.
So up until the 80s there, it was, he turned in kind of like a different fella, you know? So.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that old kind of trope.
Yeah. Which do you like better? Him keeping the little kid personality and everything, or?
I think I like that better. Yeah, that's more interesting to see what this kid would do with all this vast superpowers. It's like the movie Big.
Yeah. Yeah, that's basically it. Yeah. So.
Yeah. He goes to work at a toy company instead of fighting crime.
So not only is Shazam the magic word that he says, and also his name there for a little bit, although he's still called Captain Marvel in these books, right?
I think so. I think in some books he is. Yeah.
They just couldn't use it as the title of the book.
Yeah, it's very confusing because it's hard to tell which one he's called at any given time, I feel like.
But Shazam is also the name of the wizard that gave him his powers. So
yeah,
that even makes it more confusing because it's
multifunctional. Yeah, and maybe they should have called him like Captain Shazam. Combine the two.
And the wizard's first appearance was also Wiz Comics too, and he was originally known as Shazamo, ancient hero and guardian of the Rock of Eternity. And I guess the Rock of Eternity is just like the center of everything. They show it in this book here. I don't know.
Yeah,
I guess.
He was late, like light speed to get to it. I guess like it's outside of regular time.
Yeah. And he was later revealed to be named Jebediah, and he was of Egyptian and Canaanite origin. When he got older, he looked for a successor, and that's how he got first to our next fella. And that's the villain in this book, Black Adam. That was, he was supposed to be old Jebediah's successor. And his real name is Teth Adam. And his first appearance was the Marvel Family issue 1, 1945, created by Otto Binder and C.C. Beck. His first appearance was reprinted in Shazam 8 in 1973. That's the series we're doing today. And then this issue 28 is his first true Bronze Age appearance. So,
wow, look at that.
Yeah, he had one appearance in the 40s and then this. That's crazy.
Tapestry. Yeah.
So, his Shazam called him what does he call him? Chem Adam. I believe K-H-E-M, which was like Kemet, which was basically Egypt. And the reason he's called Black Adam, I read an interview with The Rock where he says he's called Black Adam because his soul is black. No, that's not why he's called Black Adam.
He's just making that stuff up.
Yeah, he's called Chem Adam, and that was short for Kemet, and Kemet is Egypt. And Egypt was known as the Black Land because of the black soil in the Nile River Basin. So that is why he's called Black Adam, and that's why he had a black costume.
100%. Yeah. I don't know what The Rock is talking about. Like, clearly he's more of an anti-hero than a, full-on villain, so his heart's not that black.
Well, originally it was. Originally he was like, so Shazam wanted him, he thought he was pure of heart and everything, so he gave him the powers to go out and be the champion of his land. But then as soon as he got these powers, he said, hey, wait a minute, I should just take over everything. So he started, and we get the backstory. We get the backstory in this book, so we'll go over it there. But then I guess over the years, though, he's evolved, and now he's more like an anti-hero, like walking that line or whatever,
Yeah. I think he joined the Justice League at a certain point.
Oh, how about that?
Yeah.
There is another villain in this book, Dr. Thaddeus Savannah, and he also appeared in Wiz Comics 2, and created by Bill Parker, C.C. Beck. He's an evil scientist and Captain Marvel's first and most frequent enemy. He's just a little bald guy with glasses. And he's just the typical evil scientist guy that you encounter in comic books all the time.
Yeah, yeah. He was, I think, the villain in that first Captain Marvel movie.
Yeah, when I was reading up on them though, I saw pictures and they just had like a younger guy playing him, not a bald little guy with glasses or anything.
Yeah, he's just kind of a normal businessy kind of guy. Yeah,
yeah, that's a mistake. I mean, a little bald guy.
Like to have fun anymore in movies. They're just like, how can we make this serious, dour?
So then we got the creators for this book. The writer is E. Nelson Bridwell, and should we talk about them now, or let's wait? Let's talk about them later.
Okay.
And then the artist is Kurt Schaffenberger.
Great name.
All right, Jank. Well, I think that's all the background we need here for Shazam and Black Adam. Why don't you describe the cover for us?
All right. So we got a cover here. Again, DC, like this is the late 70s, and this looks like something out of the early golden age.
Yes.
I don't know what's going on here. But it says DC TV comic, and it's got a little picture of Shazam there on the TV screen. This is the Saturday morning superstar with one magic word, Shazam, the world's mightiest mortal. This book was 30 cents, so that's a good deal. We got a big picture of the Rock of Eternity there, and it says the world's mightiest villain returns on there. And Shazam, the wizard, just kind of pressed against the wall there, like, oh god.
Why is he just standing there?
Yeah. Maybe you find a cave in that rock or something. Instead of just like standing pressed ham against this rock. But then we got Black Adam's flying towards him, trying to get there, but Shazam has jumped in the way. He's like, Black Adam, this is impossible. You're dead. And Black Adam says, I've come back to destroy you and the old wizard. Then I'll rule the world.
Yeah. Now the problem with this cover, there's a big problem here, and that's that we see Black Adam's ass and back. We've discussed this before. It's a pet peeve of mine. When you have a character's back featured on the cover, you don't get to see what they look like. There's got to be a better way.
Weird receding hairline that Black Adam has at this point. Maybe that's for the best.
It's kind of got a George Jefferson. No, I guess not. It's not a George Jefferson, really. Maybe. I don't know. But yeah, he's losing his hair.
Yeah.
But there's got to be a better way to compose this, so that we can see Black Adam's face. And
well, I guess they wanted to focus on Shazam, even though we see.
But this is Black Adam's first appearance since 1940 or whatever. You know? Let's get him in here.
Yeah. Well, clearly they didn't know what they had on their hands with this guy, apparently. Because he's so scrawny. They're like, this will never catch on.
Well, he's jacked. Well, he's not. Look at him. He's got good muscle definition in that back and ass. Look at him.
On the cover, he does. Yeah. Inside the book, not so much. He looks noticeably scrawnier than Shazam.
So, hey, look at that. The first ad for the book, Super Bodybuilding Course. Maybe that's what he took,
I would just say Shazam instead of taking all these bodybuilding courses. That's the easy way to get ripped.
So we open up the book. We see little Billy Bats in there, and we see Shazam on the other side. It says Shazam and a lightning bolt exclamation point. Chosen to receive the powers of 6 ancient elders, young newscaster Billy Batson is only to speak the name of the ancient wizard Shazam, and in a flash of lightning, he is transformed in the world's mightiest mortal, Captain Marvel. And then they show the gods and powers they give him and whatnot. That is a pretty great idea for a book, though, especially in 1940. A little kid turned into a superhero saying a magic word. That's pretty great.
Yeah, I mean, they're giving everybody like teen sidekicks like Robin and stuff, but this one they just cut out the middleman. We're like, let's just make him the hero.
So this also, DC does the thing they always do where they start the book with a splash page of a scene that happens later in the book. So,
yep.
He's odd.
There's a lot of jumping around in time in this thing. And so like they start explaining the backstory and they're like, we'll explain that later. I'm like, okay, great.
5,000, we get here on the splash page, we see Captain Marvel and Black Adam, they're flying at each other over the city of Boston.
Yeah. Very important. Yeah. Comes into play in a lot of ways.
But we get a little box here in the bottom corner. 5,000 years ago, Shazam gave his powers to another hero, in quotes, who proved not to be a real hero at all, but a villain. And now he comes back to battle the world's mightiest mortal in the city of Boston, Massachusetts. Not to be confused with Boston, Oklahoma. The return of Black Adam.
Yep.
All right, Jake. So now we open it up and we see Dr. Savannah. He's in there. and he's got what is he? This little machine he calls it the reincarnation machine.
Reincarnation machine. Which I don't know if that's what it is. If you're just literally bringing someone back to life, like not in some other body or something, and you're just recreating them.
But describe the machine because it's real wizard design.
Yeah, I think he just stole a coffin from mortuary and hooked it up to a bunch of machines, a bunch of like weird green suction cups.
Yeah. And there it is, his reincarnation machine. And who does he reincarnate? It's old Black Adam, old Teth Adam.
Yeah, Teth Adam wakes up after all these years and just immediately says Shazam and turns into Black Adam all over again.
Yeah. Yeah, here he doesn't look so jacked. Yeah, here he's kind of small. But,
yeah. He kind of looks the same as when he's regular Teth Adam. Like, I also like that he has pointy ears. Like, is this a thing in ancient Egypt? Everyone had pointy ears?
That is true, yeah. He's very Spockish.
Yeah.
And, at last, when I fought the Marvel family, I was tricked into changing back to Teth Adam, and I died. But that can't happen this time. Yeah, and we get that story later. But basically, that's how they always beat Black Adam. They trick him into saying Shazam. And lightning bolt. And then because
we have to get him to say his name backwards or whatever.
Oh, Mr. Mitzelplex or whatever.
Yeah.
But then when he turned into Teth Adam, Captain Marvel punched him, gave him an uppercut, and knocked him out. And then when he was out, he didn't have a chance to say Shazam again. So he had been alive for so many years that his body just decomposed and he turned into dust. And that's how he died. So.
That's what's going to happen to me in about 3 days.
3 days.
Just going to turn to dust. Time is catching up to me.
So old Black Adam says, hey, thanks for bringing me back to life there, Dr. Savannah. And he says, but if this reincarnation machine can bring me back, it's probably the only thing that can take me out, too. So I'm just going to break up your machine here. And he just punches it and smashes it. And Savannah's like, what? How dare you? So, yeah, we should say the art here is
idea.
The art here is very cartoony, comic strippy.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah, like you said, it's very like golden age. Yeah.
But it's fun.
So
I enjoyed it.
So old Dr. Savannah says, I threatened to destroy Boston unless I was acknowledged as rightful ruler of the universe. That's why I revived you, to help me. And then old Black Adam says, rightful ruler of the universe, I like that title. So he's like, you know what? I think I'll take it. After I wreck the city. And Dr. Savannah's like, what an ingrate. So, all right, Jack, why don't you break down the racial riots going on in Boston in the 70s over busing? Because that's what happens next.
Yeah. Billy Batson's caught in the middle of some kind of rioting about there's some people for busing, some people against busing. Can't really see much signs other than that they like busing and we don't like busing.
Yeah, for those not aware, like this was a big issue in Boston at the time. Like it went on for years and it was a very violent and ugly scene in Boston. So yeah. Yeah, he's getting torn back and forth between the two sides of so how does he get out of there, Jank?
Well, some people are like pulling on, one side's pulling on one arm, one side's pulling on the other arm, and he's just like, Shazam, and turns into Captain Marvel, and like all of a sudden they can't see him because he's flying like a foot above their heads. I don't know.
Well, I guess they said there's a flash
of light. Player identity there.
So they're blinded by the flash of light. But yeah.
Yeah.
And hey, look, now we get the picture from the splash page. The same exact one. So
surprised they didn't use this for the cover.
Yeah.
Kept using it everywhere.
But Shazam says, hey, Black Adam, but you're dead. I was, but I'm alive again. And now we get the
dialogue.
And now we get the backstory. Old Captain Marvel Shazam there is thinking back to when they last encountered Black Adam and how Uncle Dudley tricked him into saying his own name because he kept calling him the names.
Pretending, like he didn't know what the wizard's name was. He's like, Mazham? I mean, Hamshaz? No, Shamaz? And then, Black Adam just gets frustrated and says, you sputtering old fool, you mean Shazam. And then he says it, lightning hits him and he becomes weak again and Captain Marvel punches him.
Yep, and then he turns to dust. And we should just, for those who don't know, Captain Marvel, he's basically Superman. That's all. Like, he has the same powers as Superman. He doesn't have heat ray vision.
Like yeah. But the basic invulnerability and flying and super strength.
And Black Adam has the exact same powers. So they're like, they can't hurt each other. Yeah. They just keep fighting, and there's nothing they can do. All right, Jake.
Like now, Cyclops and Havoc, I guess, where their powers that don't affect each other.
Yeah, they cancel each other off. So, all right, Jake. Now we get to your main event here. Why don't you take us through what you're excited to talk about? Oh, I do see the title. Yeah, I do see the title.
What a title! We got another adventure of Aquaman and Twinkies Cakes here in a little one-page comic here called That Dirty Beach.
Dirty Beach.
That Dirty Beach. These writers knew what they were doing, all right. But basically the beach is so full of junk. Nobody wants to go to the beach. The beaches are closed indefinitely, there's a sign. And Aquaman's like, something smells fishy. I'll investigate. You can depend on me. And there's a bunch of business owners who are all upset. Like, one of them's like, without the beaches, who'll buy suntan lotion? No beaches, nobody buys bathing suits. Then there's like an ice cream guy, I think. He's like, you better do something fast. So Aquaman goes down and he's like, oh, here's a shark, but he ain't listening to my, call. So what's going on here? And he finds a kind of Kraken looking guy, by the name of Sludge Jack.
Yeah, I never heard of this guy. I'm guessing he's probably a villain. I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe they just needed somebody who could pollute the water. And they're like, this guy's name sounds like Sludge. That'll work. But Aquaman just kind of swims up, gives him one punch right in the nose, and that's all it takes to get rid of this guy.
Well, he doesn't really get rid of him. He just kind of like subdues him and then bribes him with Twinkies. So that's...
Yeah. And him and like the mayor like go down underwater and they're all eating Twinkies cakes with Sludge Jack now. I don't know how the mayor's not dead. Well,
it looks like they're in a bubble of some sort, right? Like if you can see like, the bubble outline. And Sludge Jack or whatever his name is, he's like, hostess Twinkies cakes, delicious, well of a taste.
Scrumptious hostess Twinkies cakes, the best food on the land and in the sea.
You get a big delight in every bite of Hostess Twinkie cakes. How about that?
Who are the ad wizards who came up with this one? I love it.
I don't know. It's a tough call. Great Guppies versus You Dirty Beach. That is
that
tough.
Dirty Beach. I sent this to Pete when I was reading. I'm like, oh, you got to see this. You'll love it.
Old cousin Pete. All right, so now we're back to the comic, and Shazam and Black Adam, they just fly right into each other head first, and they just knock each other out, but they just go flying backwards. They're both okay. And so Black Adam says, you know what I want to do? I'm going to go throw a boat at old Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
He's old Ironside.
Ironsides, which, you know what? I just started rewatching Cheers now that I have Paramount Plus again.
All right.
And I was watching the one where Coach's daughter or like niece comes to town. And she's like dating Woody, and the first thing she wants to do is go see old Ironsides. I was like, oh, hearing a lot about old Ironsides this week.
About that. And but Shazam just catches the boat, and so he doesn't fall apart, And then they go back to fighting, and Captain Marvel punches Black Adam, does nothing. Black Adam kicks Captain Marvel, does nothing. So now what does Black Adam do now, Jack?
Oh, now he's Superman. So he flies down and he grabs the statue of Paul Revere and just throws it up at Captain Marvel, which again I don't think is going to do anything. So I don't know what the point of any of this is, but
I
just
think
like
the point,
destruction.
Yeah, I think the point is just to keep him busy so he can get away, and he throws it so hard at him it breaks.
It sure does. Smashes to bits. But Shazam there, being a student of history who's probably literally in history class right now, or should be, because he's like 11. He picks up all of the pieces as they're falling to the ground. He saves every single one of them, and then somehow puts it all together. And through using like super friction, which I don't know about that, but somehow like welds it together. Just like I don't know, he rubs it really fast. Like
that's right. I can make a lot of jokes here. We're a family show, so I'm not going to do it. But
But yeah, he manages to piece this thing back together and not even a crack is showing. Like it's perfectly good as new. Even the people, gathered onlookers are like, wow, he did an amazing job. This guy.
So while he was doing all that super friction stuff with his hands, Black Adam flew away, so he had to jump on him. He got out of there. So now he turns back into Billy Batson.
Back to the whiz van though, which I'm assuming is just full of like Snapple balls that they peed in the back because it's such a long trip. That's why they call it the whiz van.
But Billy Batson's talking to his Uncle Dudley, and Dudley's like, Black Adam alive? We must get advice from Shazam. And then Billy Batson says, my thoughts exactly. I'll call him on the attorney phone. Attorney phone. So he goes, they let this kid drive a van too? What's happening in the 1970s?
Yeah, I don't get it.
So, but he goes in and he monkeys with some doodads on it. Looks like an upside down spaghetti strainer. And up pops the face of Shazam, and he's talking to him.
Not the superhero.
That's right. This is all confusing. So Shazam says, that is indeed a great calamity. I rue the day that I chose Teth Adam to receive the Shazam powers. Now we get another flashback to when Shazam gave him his powers. And we see him just being a jerk, trying to take over Egypt. And then Shazam
get off that throne, Pharaoh. I claimed it for myself.
Yeah, and he puts him in like a rear naked choke. And but then Shazam just I don't know what he does. Excommunicates Black Adam.
Yeah, he sends him to the farthest corner of the universe where he cannot fly. It'll take him 5,000 years to fly back. Which, again, like, why didn't you just do this again? As soon as he comes for you with the Rock of Eternity, just send him there again. It'll take him another 5,000 years. You can keep doing this forever.
So now we cut and we see, Billy Batson says, yeah, but Wizard guy. Yeah, he doesn't call him Shazam, does he? He just calls him Wizard or something, I guess.
Yeah.
Is a Wizard guy. How can it be 5,000 years? That was before old, Hercules and those guys ever lived. Well, did they ever live? I don't think they ever lived, Billy Batson. I think you're missing the point here.
Or they came up with them. Yeah, someone made them up.
But the Wizard guy, he says, oh, no, that's okay, because back then Shazam stood for something else.
Yeah.
Shazam stood for Shu, S-H-U, the god of air and supporter of sky. These are Egyptian gods. And he gets the stamina for him. Hershef is the Hercules equivalent. And Ammon is the power of Zeus. Zahudi is wisdom, like Solomon. Anpu is speed, like Mercury. And Mentu is courage, like Achilles. So
yeah. They moved them around, but they somehow made it work still. So, I mean, somebody is doing their history research on this book. So I'll give them that at least. They put some thought into it.
So now we cut over to Dr. Savannah and Black Adam. And Savannah says, so you're back, eh? Haven't you conquered the world yet? You've had half an hour. And Black Adam says, quiet, little man. I'm trying to think of a way to defeat Captain Marvel. So Savannah says, why not go after the one who created him and avenge yourself on that old man for banishing you? And Black Adam says, hey, you know what? That's pretty good thinking there. I'm going to go beat up that old wizard. It'd be easy to beat him up. He's an old man. I'll beat him up. And, but this is all a scheme of Dr. Savannah, because he says, hey, if he beats up the wizard, he'll probably lose his powers too,
Yeah, they all come from the same place, so.
Yeah. Oops. So I'll get rid of Black Adam and Captain Marvel in one stroke. So this Dr. Savannah, he's sneaky. Yeah. But,
well, he's, I don't know if he's sneaky so much as dumbass, as we'll find out later in the issue. He's like the Riddler, just giving, hints to where his next crimes are going to be.
Apparently he has to do a crime in each city around the world or something.
Yeah.
United States. So Billy Batson, he looks up and he sees, oh my goodness, look, or Uncle Dudley does. He says, hey, it's Black Adam. And, he says, holy moly. And that is said a lot in this book. Holy moly.
Yeah.
And he says, Shazam! And he turns into Shazam, and he goes flying after Black Adam. And like you mentioned earlier, they have to fly like faster than the speed of light to get to the Rock of Eternity. So he's chasing after Black Adam. And right when Black Adam's about to get there, he grabs him by the ankle, spins around, and throws him back. And he throws him so far, Jank, he throws him into the past.
Yeah, back in time to the Boston Tea Party.
Yes. So
and we
what
see
happens?
Black Adam like angrily grabbing one of the crates of tea and hurling it at Captain Marvel, and he's just like, "Haha, do that all you want. You're just helping those Boston Tea Party guys smash all that tea before they can get there. So do your worst."
And they keep fighting, and nothing's happening. And but then Black Adam says, "Hey, you know what? I'm just going to throw you all the way as far as I can." And he does that, and he's looking, "Hey, where did I throw him exactly?" He threw him all the way around the world, and Captain Marvel comes back and punches him in the back. Man. But then Jank, this Black Adam fella, he learned from the past. He goes, "You know what? I'm just going to trick him, kind of like the same way they tricked me." He grabs Captain Marvel, and then he says Shazam, but then he ducks out of the way, and the lightning bolt hits Captain Marvel, turns him into Billy Batson.
Yeah, up in the air. He starts falling. He's like, "Oh, gotta say Shazam again," but Black Adam comes from behind and puts his hand over his mouth and won't let him talk. And so he does let him live, though. He brings him down and immediately like gags him and ties him all up. And then throws him in the harbor, the old Boston harbor there.
That's the drama.
And
hey, Black Adam, maybe just snap his little neck. He's an 11-year-old kid.
Yeah,
breaking like a twig. Yeah.
Because apparently, even with his arms and legs bound, this kid swims like a fish.
Great guppies.
Get back to he must have found those Twinkies down there, and they gave him the energy he needs to get to the surface.
And then who rescues him once he gets to the surface?
Well, a bunch of Boston Tea Partiers dressed up like Native Americans there, and one of them's named Paul, and he's a silversmith. So Billy Batson, being a sharp kid, he's like, "Oh, this must be Paul Revere himself. I saved his statue, and now he saved me."
Oh, full circle. Yeah. What a moment. So then he rewarded him with some super friction. No, he didn't do that. He says Shazam.
Very Marvel.
And then he flies away. And he goes back to the Rock of Eternity, and there's old Shazam the Wizard, and he's just standing on the rock waving at him. He's like, "Hey, Black Adam's not here. I think he went back to 1977.
Yeah. He's a big disco guy.
Wasn't the whole point of him going to beat up the Wizard? Like, why?
Really wants to go to Studio 54.
So, I don't know. Well, yeah, he flies back there, and now he says, "You know what? I couldn't beat up that Wizard for some reason. I'm going to go beat up Uncle Dudley. That guy tricked me last time. He has no powers. He's got nothing. I'm just going to punch that old man in the belly." And so he's going to go beat up Uncle Dudley. But then Uncle Dudley, though, Jank, he's pretty sneaky. What does he do?
He's like, "You must be mistaken. I don't recall seeing you before." And Black Adam gets all mad. "You certainly did. You tricked me into saying Shazam. You mean..." And then the lightning hits him, turns him back in the old Teth Adam there once again. And Captain Marvel's like, "Aha, this is the chance I've been waiting for." And he hits him with his amnesia punch, which again, like, is that a thing? Like, this is like where Superman in Superman 2 just like throws out a cellophane S out of his chest. Like, you're just making up powers now.
Yeah, he thinks to himself, "Have to land this punch just right."
Yeah.
That should do it. It worked. My amnesia punch took away his memory. He can't say the magic word if he can't remember it. Yeah, Teth Adam. He's just sitting there, stars going around his head. He has no idea who he is. And,
yeah.
So then, Jank, someone comes up and hands Captain Marvel a note. And what does the note say, Jank?
Well, asks if he wants to be their Valentine from a secret admirer. No, it's from Dr. Savannah. He says he's leaving Boston, but will challenge me again in Buffalo, and he has special plans for Niagara Falls. If I was like Shazam, I'd just be like, "I'm not going." If he's got plans for me there, I'm not going to show up until he does anything bad. Like, he's just waiting there with a trap for me. Why would I go?
And then there's a little box, and since those plans involve the mighty, is that Iback? Is that what that says? Iback and Aunt Minerva, you won't want to miss the next issue on sale the second week in February.
Yeah.
There it is. That's the book, Shazam. And then their letters pages, Shazam Mal.
Not the best.
I get what they're going
put some
for.
more
Yeah, that doesn't really work.
I did like one of the ads here at the end is 204-piece Revolutionary War soldier set for only $2.25.
Yeah, this was in all the books back in the day. I remember this ad when I was a kid. It was
holy hell. You could be like that guy in that episode of Columbo.
That's right.
Just 25.
That would be great. Yeah. And we also get like a Daily Planet page. Haunted Tank stars in 200th GI Combat. So I guess it's just a look around DC Comics. Wonder Woman faces showdown with Red Panzer. Okay. Don't know what that means. Oh, here's a trivia quiz for you, Jake. Okay, Wonder Woman fans, here's your chance to test your Amazon knowledge. What is Wonder Woman's mother's name? On what island do the Amazons live? And where is it located?
In the ocean.
Sorry, there it is, Shazam issue 28. Now, the writer here was a fellow named E. Nelson Bridwell, born 1931 in Oklahoma. Sadly, he passed away in 1987. He broke into comics in 1950 when he was just 19 years old. He began working for DC in 1965 as the assistant to editor Mort Weisinger in all the Superman books. In 1966, he created the superhero parody, The Inferior Five, for Showcase issue 62. I might have to check that out. I don't know.
Yeah.
His love,
pretty good. It's like the Great Lakes Avengers.
His love for comic history made him DC's continuity cop. And he had 377 writing credits
these days.
Yeah. 377 writing credits at DC, including Action Comics, Adventure Comics, 2 issues of Batman, Detective Comics, Superman, Super Friends, and he did 14 issues of this here Shazam series. He was also a writer for Mad Magazine. And in 1958, he did a parody of The Lone Ranger where he wrote the catchphrase that kind of became famous with the whole, what do you mean we? Later it was always, what do you mean we, Kemosabe or whatever. But, sure. Yeah, so look at that. This guy wrote that.
Nice.
About that.
A feather in his cap.
So what do you think of the rating here, Jack?
I thought it was pretty fun. Like, it was goofy as hell, that's for sure. Like, on a bad comic scale, this would rate high.
Yeah. This is clearly geared towards kids, right? Like, young kids, you know.
Yeah. But it was chock full of history, so this guy clearly knows his stuff. He knows his gods, he knows his Boston history, and so that's good. Appreciated that attention to detail.
Maybe one too many holy molies.
Yeah.
I don't know why Black Adam didn't go back and beat up the Wizard, because that's what he wanted to do, and then he just changed his plan, and then the Wizard just says, oh, he's back in 1977. I don't know, a little confused there.
You do.
Super Friction, that was something.
The Whiz Van, I loved it.
So yeah, it was fun, you know, it's fun. Yeah. All right, the artist is Kurt Schaffenberger. He was born in 1920 in Germany. Sadly, he passed away in 2002. He grew up on a farm in Germany. He emigrated to the U.S. when he was just 7 years old. He joined Jack Binder's studio in 1941. And we've talked about Binder before, haven't we, on the show? Back in the day, they would...
vaguely familiar.
One of the big comic book producers back in the day. But he worked for Fawcett Comics on titles like Captain Marvel, Bullet Man, and Ibis the Invincible. We've talked about him before. And then when he was working at Binder's studio in New Jersey, he took over his apartment from a young high school football coach named Vince Lombardi.
Whoa.
How about that?
Bet those guys didn't have a lot to talk about.
He served in the U.S. military during World War II. He joined DC Comics in 1957 and worked on Superman books. He stayed at DC for 30 years. He had a huge role in developing Lois Lane. Oh. And I guess Mort Weisinger or whatever, when I think he was the editor still at the time, but whenever someone would draw Lois Lane wrong, he'd bring in this fella to fix up Lois Lane. He's like, no, you draw him like you draw Lois Lane for me. So he was always the Lois Lane guy. And he was
with like weird dot eyes, like he does really bad.
For a brief time in 1970, he actually got fired from DC for trying to organize other artists to protest bad working conditions. And when he was fired, he briefly freelanced for Marvel, but then he returned to DC in 1972. He had 545 penciling credits at DC. A lot.
Wow.
Including, he worked on like all the Superman books, including Superman, the Superman family, Superman's girlfriend Lois Lane was his big one. And he did the first 54 issues of the New Adventures of Superboy in 1980 to 84. He drew 16 issues of Shazam, this here book. He also had 461 inking credits at DC, and he inked this book as well, I believe. So, this guy had quite the career.
Yeah, who knew? I've never encountered him before.
Yeah, again, this, like you mentioned, this is very golden agey, comic strippy, very cartoony kind of art.
Yeah, it's not too dissimilar from what we saw in like the Archie book, honestly. It's that kind of
pretty
very,
much.
very cartoony.
Yeah. Not my favorite style of comic book art, I would say.
No, no, I can't say it's mine either, but for this kind of comic where it's meant to be like a younger audience, I can see it working.
Yeah. So is this your first experience with reading a Shazam Captain Marvel story?
I know I've read some Justice Leagues with him in there, but a solo Captain Marvel book it probably is, yeah.
Yeah, same with me. I've never read anything. So, I like the concept. You know, it's a pretty good concept there. And, I just like the fact that it reminds you of, Golden Age stuff, so that's cool. But, I don't know if
it was a very strange story the way he had to like they couldn't affect each other with their powers, so it's just kind of like, oh, he's got to basically figure out some way to trick this guy, and that's all he's got. But again, why didn't you let the wizard send him 5,000 miles or 5,000 years away? But
I like that you have Captain Marvel and then Black Adam as like the perfect foil for each other, and I like that. So I like a lot about the concept and everything. I doubt I'll read more of it. But,
yeah, exactly. But it was a fun time. Honestly, I enjoyed this one.
What do you give it, Jank? 1 out of 10?
I think on a bad comic scale, I got to give it like a 9.
Whoa, a 9 on a bad comic scale.
Yeah, like it was a good time. I mean, especially with that Aquaman Hostess Cakes thing. I mean, that just threw it over the top. But yeah, the whole thing I thought was pretty fun.
All right,
so they kept constantly trying to trick each other.
Yeah, if it's a bad comic scale, then maybe I could go at an 8, maybe, yeah. On a bad comic.
Like it's not it's not Born Again or something like that, where it's like, oh, this is compelling stuff. Like, but for a stupid, 70s DC comic, it got the job done.
Yeah, it was fun.
It entertained me.
Yeah. I like Black Adam a lot. Yeah.
Yeah? I think I like the more recent versions of Black Adam better. This version is kind of weird and lame.
Did he even have the pointy ears in the newer versions?
I don't think so. Or if they did, they probably toned it down a little bit.
Yeah.
But it definitely got bigger. Much more like the actual Shazam there.
I read, or not that I didn't read, but Jank, I like to take naps. And a lot of times when I take my naps, I listen to like these called graphic audio, like DC and Marvel audio books.
Yeah.
And I listened to one not too long ago that had Black Adam in it. And I was like, oh, this guy seems pretty cool.
Yeah, he's kind of like Dr. Doom, it seems like, where he's like, he's the leader of Kahndaq, he's got his own country and stuff like that. And, he looks out for his people. And, if you cross him, he'll mess you up.
Yeah, there you go. All right, so there it is, Shazam. What do you got for us next week there, Jank?
All right, well, next week I thought we would stick with DC and do a character I don't think you've ever talked about on this show either. We're going to go with Power Girl number 1 from 1988.
Power Girl.
Yeah, old Power Girl.
Very, very bosomy.
Yeah. Yeah, she was.
She had a boob window in her costume.
Yeah, sadly, I don't think this they hadn't developed that yet.
Oh.
She just kind of got a little bit of a low cut shirt. Not so much a boob window yet, but.
All right.
And I don't know what they were doing with her hair in the 80s too, but it also didn't look great, but we take what we can get.
Oddly enough, I listened to a DC graphic audio that had Power Girl in it not too long ago.
Hey.
I think it was that one where, what is it? who was it? Lex Luthor's kid, or I don't. It was like the future. They're combining all the planets and everything. Well, remember that? I was telling you that story. I can't remember what it was called now. Oh, not Infinite Crisis is what it was called.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, not Crisis on Infinite Earth. Infinite Crisis. So, but yeah, she was in there for a little bit. All right, so that's next week. Power Girl issue 1 from 1988. So,
yeah, I like the cover on number 1, so that's why I picked that one.
I think I know the art. Is this who's the artist?
Looks like Carrie, Gamble.
Oh, okay. I like Carrie Gamble.
Yeah.
All right, so that's next week here on the Big Show. Until then, again, if you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. We're trying to get to 500 subscribers. That is never going to happen, but we'd like to see if we can do it. And until next week, don't get any jank on you.